You're listening to KC Goldcoats presented by Starcade Media. It's Super Bowl day in Chiefs Kingdom, and this is Overtime. Hey everybody, welcome into our first KC Goldcoats Overtime. This is going to be a little bit different than our regular daily 2-minute warning segments. Those are a little bit more scripted, very rehearsed. This is going to be loose, me talking to you guys. I am going to keep it pretty brief, but we'll probably go just a little bit over that regular 2 minutes that we like to see, which is why we're going to call it Overtime. Thanks to my mom for coming up with that name. But let's jump in here. So I want to take what we talked about during the week and put it into better perspective for the big game today. Let's get excited and talk about who's going to come out on top. Who do I actually think is going to win this game from an analytical, statistic analysis perspective? So let's start off by drawing a picture here. These two teams, when you look at them from the eye test, when their philosophy, the way they scheme, they couldn't seem any more different, right? You look at the Eagles and you're talking about, a running quarterback, and they like to run the ball more often than they pass, although they pass the ball very well. You look at them on defense, and you look at a team that is defense is a little more similar, but they're a little bit different with the types of looks they like to give the offense and how they actually like to play against the run or play against the pass. However, when you break this down to the stats, these two teams are identical, and this is where we focused on these teams during the week. They look absolutely identical on paper. And what I mean by that, and we're mostly talking, again, offense here, but these two teams have the exact same number of yards over the season and postseason combined. Exact same total yards on offense. When you look at the two teams, they have the exact same number of total touchdowns scored, regular season and postseason combined. When you look at the two teams in the 2022 season, they had the exact same number of average yards per pass. So not just total yards, but when you break it down to the average per number of attempts, they have the exact same number of yards per attempt, 8.1 yards per passing play per team. Same thing on the rush. When you look at the two teams, they're at 4.7 yards per carry and 4.6 yards per carry, respectively. And it's the other way of what you're going to think when you hear that. The Chiefs have 4.7, although it's virtually identical. It's absolutely crazy. I don't think we've ever had a Super Bowl matchup where the two teams look so identical. But here's the end-all, be-all. Here is getting down to brass tacks. Who has the advantage going into this game? It is clearly, and I know I just went over them being so identical, but it is clearly Kansas City. And let's look at this. So you have two teams that are playing identically, performing identically. They're not playing the game itself identically, right? Like we talked about the fact they have different philosophies. But as far as how they're executing and how efficient they are at every facet of moving the ball and scoring, they're identical. But who are they doing that against, right? I'm looking at the stats right here, and these are the stat analytics post-season, right? So after the season's finished, going in and looking at who had the hardest strength of schedule. The Kansas City Chiefs, figuring after the fact, had the toughest strength of schedule, the number one toughest strength of schedule in the 2022 season. Harder than anybody else. The Eagles had the 31st. That means second to last hardest strength of schedule. They had the second easiest strength of schedule. So yeah, sure. The Eagles are going out and putting up the same numbers, the exact same numbers of average yards per pass, the exact same numbers of average yards per carry as the Chiefs. But we're talking about high school and football, or high school and college, right? Not literally, right? Because the discrepancy from the first team in the NFL to the last team of the NFL don't listen to anyone when they say a college team could ever come in and beat the 32nd team in the NFL. They couldn't, right? So not literally, but just to put this into perspective, they just haven't played that caliber of team. Let's look at this. When you read on this, the bottom half is the Giants, the Eagles, the Bears. You're looking at NFC teams because the NFC was not as good as the AFC this year. It just wasn't. The Eagles haven't played a Kansas City Chiefs team. They just haven't. And that's talking proverbially. They haven't faced what we have. Not even close. The closest they've faced is probably the Cowboys. And that's not even close. Now, this is still a very good team. Let's not be mistaken. I want to talk about who we're going to have to look at. So I want to look at that. That's what we talked about earlier in the week, right? Is how on paper these two teams look identical. What makes them different? What makes them the same on offense and defense? What are they going to have to look to do, right? But let's talk about a little bit more than we've talked about in the past, because like I said, almost all that's null and void, because at the end of the day, I think the Kansas City Chiefs take it based on that. Let's talk about two players from each team, and these are the big time guys we're going to have to watch out for. If we're the Eagles, who do we have to watch out for on the Chiefs? That's probably a little bit more obvious for all of us because we're Chiefs fans. Let's look at who the Chiefs are going to have to really watch out for on the Eagles. One of them is really obvious. So actually, both of them are if you've been watching the Eagles. So on the Eagles, we're going to have to really watch out for, obviously, Jalen Hurts. But what I want to address here is that this notion that Jalen is only a running quarterback and that he doesn't have a passing game is absolutely ridiculous. It's obscene. He is a phenomenal passer. I went back this week and watched somewhere around like 4 to 6 games just to get a good feel again for who is Jalen? What can he do? He's a phenomenal passer. I'm talking about, let's pick what shoulder we want to put it on. Let's throw contested balls and just put it right where only my receiver can get it. Now, here's the thing. He's young. He's made some rookie mistakes, right? That doesn't make him not a good passing quarterback. You know, he's thrown some contested throws maybe he shouldn't have and gotten picked off because of it. He's held on to the ball when he should have gotten rid of it or scrambled out and ended up getting sacked for a fumble, right? But that doesn't make him a bad quarterback. That makes him a young quarterback. That's what we see from most quarterbacks coming into the league when they first go into a starting role, right? Not everybody's Patrick Mahomes where they come out in their first season and they're a contestant for the NFL MVP, although Jalen Hurts was, right? This is the first year that we're really looking at Jalen Hurts, and he was the runner-up for MVP. And that doesn't come just from being a rushing quarterback. There's a reason that they have the same average yards per pass as the Chiefs do. So don't underestimate him, right? The other thing with Jalen Hurts that we'll have to look at is when does he run? And ignoring all the talking heads, although maybe you consider me one, but I don't think I have a big enough of a following to be considered a sports talking head, right? But ignoring them and looking at the actual games and watching the games myself, Jalen isn't running when he's blitzed. It's actually really interesting. When Jalen is blitzed, he goes through his reads very well. He finds the fastest open receiver and he gets the ball off. When Jalen Hurts runs is because there's open field in front of him. So one of the things we're going to have to watch out for, and one of the things that's going to make it really hard to defend the Eagles, and I think it's made it hard on a lot of teams, why the 49ers struggled in the second, because the thing is, everyone keeps saying, well, Brock Purdy went down, right? And yeah, that affected the 49ers' ability to score, right? But the defense is who has to play the Eagles and slow down the Eagles, and they couldn't do it, and the 49ers have one of the best defenses in the league, right? And I think the reason they're struggling against that is because Jalen presents an interesting problem. He runs when you give him open field, right? Which means you can't drop 8. you need to leave some people up front to block against the run. Excuse me. However, you also can't rush because the dude's still, or you can rush. You also can't put everybody up front too consistently because the guy's still a good passer. He can still pass for 8.1 yards per attempt, right? It's interesting. Now, here's the thing. He's not as good at passing as running. I do think the solution, we have some amazing guys in our backfield, right? We have rookie DBs, but they're absolutely phenomenal. We've got Snead, we've got McDuffie. These are a talented group of guys that we've got in the backfield. Spags likes to mix things up during the first defensive drive. So when his defense first goes out, really the Eagles' first offensive drive, right? Of the first half and the second half to see, okay, what are they going to do in this half, and how do we need to play them? And so what he does is he'll mix it up, give them like 5 different looks on one series to see how they play against each, and then start leaning into the ones that work. And I'm curious how much he tries to see, can we go man against their receiving core? Because they don't have the best receiving core. Jalen Hurts makes them look good. But when we match up against them, can we go man? Because if we can, you have a solution, right? You're always going to mix it up. You're still going to throw in some zone coverage. You got to keep them honest, right? You got to make sure they don't just start running cross routes and rub routes and stuff when we go man. But if we can play a little bit more man and lock them up while doing so, and we find out that's going to be an option, boom, you've got it. Because you blitz Jalen consistently, run a manned back half of the field, and I don't know what Jalen's going to do. I don't know if he's seen that yet. I don't know if he knows what to do in that situation. And I'm curious if we start to see those rookie mistakes come forward if we do so. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. It will be interesting. The other big name from the Eagles that we're really going to have to watch out for is Hassan Riddick. Oh my gosh, let me pull up a few stats for you guys on Hassan Riddick. I think it's Reddick. My bad. The dude is absolutely insane. So looking at Hassan Riddick over the 2022 season, if this will load, we're looking at a guy. I want to know how many sacks this guy had on this season. I knew this actually earlier, but I didn't have the. We're looking at 2 in a game, 2 in a game, 2 in a game, 1 in a game, 1 in a game, 1 in a game, 1 in a game. This dude doesn't go a game without getting a sack, and a lot of the times it's 2 or 3. He's absolutely insane. He's great against the pass. He's a phenomenal asset to the Eagles. We're going to have to really lock him up. We cannot afford to have Patrick Mahomes not being able to be Patrick Mahomes because of Hassan Riddick. And we're really, really going to have to try to figure out what to do with him, because the truth is that who we would have going up against Hassan Riddick is Andrew Wiley. And that's a mismatch. I love Andrew Wiley. You know, he's done a good job for us on the O-line, but it's a bit of a mismatch. I don't see him matching up well against Hassan Riddick. So I'm curious what we do there. Do we just try to double team him, which you can't do consistently if they bring more guys up to the line? Are we gonna see a personnel change? Are we gonna see them shift the O-line around a little bit and experiment with that during the first couple snaps? It's going to be interesting how we go up against him. So that's going to be something to watch out for in the game as well. On the Chiefs side, we all know Patrick Mahomes is going to do amazing. We all know Travis Kelce is going to go out there and ball out. I'm going to talk about 2 other guys because from a Kansas City Chiefs fan's perspective, we obviously already know to watch out for those guys, right? So looking at this, let's look at number 1 are our wide receivers. That's going to be something to look at. Does Juju play consistently? Does he see a lot of snaps? does Kadarius Toney come out and play a lot of snaps? Can he stay healthy through a single game? Dude's been absolutely insane. He's, been a very lethal weapon, but the dude just can't stay healthy. That was his issue back in New York as well, right? So can he stay healthy through the game? Is Juju healthy enough to play consistently through the game? And if not, who comes up big, right? We did bring Kemp back up. Again, activated him just in case we need him in there more, which does make me think that Andy Reid and Bieniemy, they're thinking, okay, we don't know if our wide receivers are going to stick it out through the game. We've had some people who are injured. They're just now starting to practice again. We might need Kemp, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what comes up there. Who can come up big is the big thing. Valdez-Scantling obviously came up big against the Bengals. He stepped up and became that guy. Is he going to be our Sammy Watkins, our playoff guy, who maybe we don't see as much from him in the regular season, but he becomes the guy who just can go and get it done in the postseason when we need him most? Can we get that from somebody in the wide receiving core? That's going to be something to watch from the Chiefs. Something else to watch from the Chiefs is how often, I'll say the next one is the play calling from Andy Reid as far as the run game is concerned. How often do we choose to run the ball? We're running it very, very well, and the Eagles are bad against the run, right? So, I mean, they did pretty good against the 49ers. I'll give them that, right? But at times they didn't have a QB timing those handoffs. Towards the end of the game, there were snaps where they didn't have a QB at all, right? Which does still affect the run game, because now you can just come up and play against the run solely. You don't have to worry about keeping yourself honest as a defense and playing against the pass, right? So it's going to be interesting. Can Patrick Mahomes extending the field cause us to be able to see that Eagles weak point again? And do we run the ball enough to see a lot of production from our running game? Do we go to McKinnon and Pacheco? And do they play Clyde Edwards-Helaire much in the running game, right? He's back, but he hasn't been there for a while. He hasn't played in the postseason. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do on the running game as well. All that being said, again, I do think, honestly, this is more of a mismatch than people are making it out to be. The Chiefs are going to go in with the advantage, the clear advantage here, right? But then again, we said that about Super Bowl 55. So that's not to say we know what's going to happen. But if I had to predict what we're going to be looking at here, I'm going to say that the Chiefs take it by 1 or 2 scores. And not 3 points, 7 or 14 points, right? If I had to predict, I actually think it's going to be less of a close game than people think. I think at times it's going to be close either way. I think there'll be times when the Eagles have the lead, but I think it's going to be like when we played the Jaguars, where it did get close, we did get nervous, but it still felt the whole time like the Chiefs have this win. And I think that's what we're going to see out of this Super Bowl. It'll be fun. I'm excited. I can't wait to watch the big game. One last thing, I will be going live after the game on my own personal Facebook. I don't have a page up and running for this podcast yet, not separate from Starcade Media. So it's going to be interesting to dive in with you guys, get some takes from you guys, get some questions from you guys, but that is going to be on my personal Facebook. I'll try to keep the live video public so anyone can go find it. James Keeney. I'm wearing Chiefs gear, but I will be going live after the Super Bowl. Look forward to talking to you guys then. But as always, thank you for your support. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and go Chiefs. Thank you for listening to KC Gold Coats, presented by Starcade Media. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.